we got a caller already. And give me just a second, caller. We'll get you on board here. Hold on just a second. I've got you on board. Hello, you are live on the air. What's your name and where are you from?
Hey, my name is Mark, and I'm from Greenville, South Carolina.
Hey, you're not too far from me. What's going on, Mark?
Yeah, so I just got a story here. Just a quick story.
All right.
Just to kick things off. So, yeah, this happened. So just to give a little backstory, so my uncle, he's, or he at least was, paralyzed. And this came from him, just a quick, side story. He was, I can't remember the year, but he was falsely accused of robbing a bank. And so, while in jail, they have their couple of bad apples in a police department. So, while in jail, he was beaten severely and slammed, and he landed on his neck. So he was paralyzed on the way down. So, he needed care. And ever since I was a young kid, I would always care for him. And, so we grew to have a sort of bond. And so recently, I would say last year, the exact date is July the 3rd. So he passed away. And I was like his in-home CNA. And so that morning I walked in, to do the regular things. And so he passed away. But, it was weird because the day before that, there were signs that he wasn't feeling all right. But he was a tough old son of a gun, so I would ask him what's wrong. And he would always say, I'm good, things of that nature. And so that morning I walked in. He was unfortunately deceased. He would have been for a while because he was very cold to the touch. His eyes were, white, completely white. And I don't know why, but I grabbed my phone and took a picture. It was kind of an instinct because I didn't have no pictures of him. I don't know why I chose to take it at that moment, but I just needed something to remember him by. But just to get to the chase, and I'm kind of dragging it. So, a couple of days after that, I kind of blame myself because, as I said, I saw signs that, something wasn't right. I kind of blame myself for that. And so one night in a dream, he came to me and he told me we were in the field, I can remember. So we were in the field and I was just sitting under a tree reading. And he came to me and he was like, it wasn't your fault. It was just my time. He told me, like, don't blame yourself. I'm resting in peace. I was miserable in life anyway, so there's nothing to be sad about. And I woke up that next morning, and coincidentally, our grandmother had also had the same sort of dream like that. But it was him thanking her because she was his primary, not primary, but he lived with her and she took care of him when the CNAs left. And, so they grew a bond as well, kind of like ours. And, that dream she had was of him thanking her. And so that morning, I told her, and, and she kind of paused because she was cooking. She kind of paused and looked at me, and a single tear ran down her eye because she said she had the same dream like that, but with a different message. And so that that kind of, I wasn't really a believer in the afterlife, or not necessarily the afterlife, but spirits up until that point. That kind of shifted my paradigm or belief in the paranormal. And that's just something I just wanted to share.
So when you had this dream of him, did you
hmm
wake up? Did you wake up with a good feeling? Did anything change in your environment or anything like that?
Um, you know how they say when you like the room gets cold when you know there's a spirit in there with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really tell if it was cold because we always keep the air on, so I couldn't really tell if there was a temperature change.
All right.
But I did have a sense of peace when I woke up because um, those couple of days I had the internal struggle of thinking that I was responsible for my uncle's death, or at least I didn't stop it when I knew. And so that dream, it kind of it gave me inner peace, and they also taught me a lesson because he used to always tell me I'm like a very conservative person, not speaking politically, but I never speak my mind, and he would always tell me that. And so after that, that kind of shook me, and now I'm more of an outspoken person. Not as much as extroverts are, but like when I see something wrong, instead of holding it in, I let people know. Just because that incident serves as a reminder to me. But going back to your question, yeah, as far as like changing my environment, not necessarily, but uh, there was a change within me.
Okay.
Yes,
So did you
yes,
have
that
a
was.
good feeling when you woke up from this dream of him?
Yeah, it was. I was at peace. Um, yeah, I was at peace after that, and that. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I
that's
was at
cool.
peace. But,
That is awesome. That is awesome. So did you? I've had similar dreams. Folks that I have passed in my life. One notably is my grandfather. And when I had a dream of him, I only had one dream of him. And when I woke up from it, and I felt at peace, just like you said. I felt like the whole house had not a heavy feel. It had a lighter feel to it. Like you open up the windows in your house for the first time after a long winter to get the new fresh air in.
yeah,
That's
that breeze. Yeah,
yeah, that breeze, that kind of not wild, kind of just calmness to the
yeah,
whole house. So yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
So is that
yes,
similar
sir.
to what you experienced?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, yeah. That is true. The atmosphere, it did kind of lighten up, um, and also my grandmother also. Um, I'm not too like knowledgeable as far as paranormal goes, but she also kept his ashes, and so there is like I can still like not necessarily sense them because I'm not too sensitive to those things, but it's a sense of familiarity as far as he goes in the house. I don't know if it's still connected to those ashes or
Okay.
not, but that's just a little nugget I wanted to add in.
Wow. So what did your sister did she tell you what the dream was, or can you share what the dream was she had, or was it just something you can't comment on?
Yeah, so yes, sir, most definitely. So yeah, so it was actually my grandmother. Um, she was his older sister. So her journey was more so. He would always love her. He used to love her cooking. She's a really good cook. So she was cooking. What did she say? I'm Southern, so you might not know what this is, but she was cooking salmon patties and grits.
Oh yeah, heck yeah, man.
And
I grew up on that
oh, okay,
stuff.
okay, yeah. So yeah, so she was cooking salmon patties, grits, and also scrambled salmon because she liked to cook those two different types. But she was cooking that, And in her dream, he actually walked up to her. And she said while he walked up to her, he was glowing, but not him. The space around him was glowing, if you get what I'm saying.
Right.
And he was wearing his favorite Packers hat and his jersey and some jeans and some green shoes. And he walked up to her and said, "It smells good what you're cooking." And she turned around and she said she gasped because she thought she wasn't. She doesn't know what lucid dreaming means, but that's what she described it. She described it as it was lucid, like she was there, but she didn't know that she was dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically told her the same thing as me. He said, I'm at peace now. I'm not suffering anymore. So there's no need to worry. And then she said in the dream she broke down crying. And he said, don't worry anymore. There's no need to worry about me. I'm not suffering. I'm not stuck in that body. Basically he was saying he's not a prisoner of his own body. And she said after that she woke up and she couldn't go to sleep for the next couple of hours. And then she had got up early to cook that morning, and she coincidentally cooked the same thing that she had in her dream.
Right.
But yeah, then I came in and told her that. That's where we had that little moment.
Wow. Did once you had the discussion with your sister about this, did you both have this wow moment, like, wow, this actually happened? He came back?
Yes, sir. So we really thought it was a dream, which it probably, still kind of 50-50 it could have been. But we thought it was weird. We thought it was weird that it happened to both of us. But like I said, she was his older sister, so she took the most care of him, and I did as well. So we wasn't really surprised that it was us two that it happened to, but we were just not weirded out, but we were just surprised that it happened.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you shared that. I've had similar dreams to that. Interesting enough, I've only had one dream of past relatives. I've not had a dream of my. Well, no, actually, I did have a dream of my brother. No, I didn't. That was something totally different. But past relatives, I've only had one dream of it, and then it's a one-off thing, and that's it. So
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So yeah, I think I know a lot of people have this thing I communicate with, whatever that comes across.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that God allows some communication back and forth. That's at His will. But
yes,
it's I believe that you had this communication just to for whatever reason you down the road this message, whatever he gave you and your sister, it sounds like he gave two different messages, will probably wind up meaning some down the road. But
yes, sir.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. That is an amazing story. I can attest that I absolutely believe you. So just one.
Yeah.
So. But do you normally dream like this? Do you see any kind of paranormal whatever happening, or are you just one of those folks that just didn't believe in it to start off with?
This is actually that was actually the second experience that I've had with as far as spirits go and the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you have time, I could tell the first one
Sure, I got plenty
really
of time.
quickly if you would like.
Oh,
Okay.
take your
So
time.
yeah, so
Take your time.
yes, sir. So so I'm a college student. I went off after I graduated in 2019. I went off to school with my uncle um, in California. He let me, instead of paying for boarding, I just stayed with him since he had an office at it was a small little community college, but I just went just to get out and see more things. But so I went, and he was introducing me to a lot of new things. And one thing we did while we was out there was we went camping, and we went to this small campground, and it was next to a not really a national forest in California, but it was next to a forest that is heavily hiked. I honestly can't remember it because California is just too big for me. I just really didn't know my way around, but it was a campground, and it had actually surprisingly a ranger, which I don't know why because it was so small, but it had a ranger, and they had a little office. And so we passed by the office to, check in and buy our lot, as you would call it. And while we were in the office, I was just looking around. So we were in office, and so then fast forward to later that night, we got our tents and stuff set up. I go to sleep, and I wake up, and so that next day we go hiking. And so I'm back then I was a little out of shape, and so they got a little further ahead of me, but they wasn't too far ahead to where I couldn't call out and say, "Hey, I'm lost or something," So it wasn't one of those Mr. 411 situations. I was close enough to communicate with them, and so I wasn't too worried. And so I'm walking, and as I'm walking down the trail, I hear crying. I was surprised because they had just passed in front of us a couple seconds before me, so I didn't think I was wondering why they didn't hear it. So I hear crying, and I turn to see a little girl. And so as I go up to her, I say, "Hey, I'm an older brother, so I really wouldn't want my sister to get lost." So my older brother and kids kind of kicked in. I'm like, "Hey, are you lost? Where's your parents?" And she just kept crying. She didn't want to say nothing. She just kept crying. And so this was like near the entrance of the campground. And so my uncle and aunt, they went ahead to the tents. I caught them on my phone. I told them, like, "Hey, there's this little girl. She's lost. I'm going to take her to the quote-unquote ranger station and see if they can find her parents."
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm walking and talking with her. And this is the first time I got a really good look at the office. So I'm walking and talking with her. And so I get to the office, and there's like this little area with chairs, kind of like a porch type situation. It's a porch. And so you sit in there, then you open the door, and you go straight into the office. And so I'm waiting on the ranger because he was talking with his assistant. So I'm waiting for him to get done, and I'm looking around, and I see a picture, of a younger girl. And lo and behold, it was a girl. She had the story that they told me was that she was hiking with her parents, and you know how that goes. They hiked a little further ahead, and so before it was too late, once they realized that they had went too fast for her, and once they turned around to search for her, they couldn't find her. And I'm like, what? I got her. And so I'm like, yeah. They're like, what? She, oh yeah, she's outside. And so we go out, and she's gone. Like, she's gone. We go outside of the door to check to see if she wandered off. Nowhere. You know, we go around and talk to other people. Say, hey, have you seen it for the girl? And I was like, no. And so that's another, experience I had. But I thought that I was tripping on that, to be honest. I didn't know if I was hallucinating, which, I don't smoke. I don't smoke or drink. I stay away from those things. I must add that in there. I don't do none of those, so I really don't know what it could have been because I didn't see that picture of her at first. So, there's a thing, they say your brain isn't able to make up faces that it hasn't seen before. And so I looked really hard into that. That situation made me look really hard into that. It says your brain can't make up faces that you haven't seen before. And the fact that I didn't see her poster at first makes me wonder, like, what really happened. You know what I mean? So that was just another situation that happened. But I kind of brushed that aside because I was a little more skeptical back then. But that's just another little story I wanted to throw in there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tricky. I was ready to go after that, but my uncle and aunt, being old school, they thought I was just some young kid just playing games with them. But no, I was serious. I was serious.
Wow. So has anybody in your family did they see any kind of wild stuff like that, paranormal?
My grandmother actually, so she said she's actually seen her, the house phone. She said she's seen it go off of the receiver and just float in midair. And my grandmother, she's a very Christian woman, not superstitious. But she said that even, shook her. And she's also said that my uncles, down in the country, they used to see a lot of UFOs. And one of my other uncles, I have a lot of uncles. We're one of those old school families with a lot of, there's a lot of the old generation. My great grandmother, she had 10 kids. One unfortunately passed away, but that's neither here nor there. But one of my other uncles that he saw, not a little person, as far as the traditional sense, it was, instead of it being a couple feet tall, it was a couple inches tall.
I've actually heard stories of that.
They didn't. Yeah. Yeah, and he said it was actually my uncle, the one who passed away. He actually told me that he saw them. I said, "What did you do?" He said, "I just left them alone." He said he was a kid. He didn't know that something like that wasn't supposed to exist.
That is impressive.
So yeah, that's.
So where did he see these little few inch tall? I'm going to relay it as cryptids. I refer to it as cryptids.
So they used to. So they lived in what we call the country. Now, they actually, when we say the sticks, they were really the sticks, and they were surrounded by woods. And he used to always, they weren't really hunters. They weren't really, nothing like that, but they used to always love to play in the woods. And he said, them being kids, they would dare each other to see how far they could go into the woods by themselves.
Right.
And so he said he was walking and he saw that, and they went into a little house. He said it was, made out of sticks and things like that. But yeah, he said he just left it alone and went about his way. He didn't really tell nobody because he didn't know something like that wasn't normal.
Right.
It was until he got older when he realized, like, okay, that's crazy that I actually saw that.
Oh, so was this? Did he tell you enough about? Was this near a body of water or a river or anything like that?
Yeah. It was. They had a little man-made lake by their house where they would go fishing. Because they used to love they love catfish, so they used to go fishing. They had a little lake by there, and the house was like it was like near a tree by that lake.
Well, that's similar to the tell I heard from up in Canada, around Alberta. I heard a tell like that with it was less than 6 inches tall. They referred to them as Native American Indian kind of Aboriginal types that had their own little, makeshift tents or teepees outside, right outside of a lake, actually. So that's where my question about the lake came into where I got that from.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, he did say. Yeah, that fascinated me.
Oh yeah. So when he told you this story, what was the look on his face? Was it like, you won't believe me if I tell you this look, or how did it come across?
So he has a very unreadable face. Because it also, the incident that happened in jail also paralyzed half his face. So even if he were to were making the face, I wouldn't necessarily be able to describe it, just due to that fact. But the tone of his voice was like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you this.
Yeah. That's how I would probably tell something like that if I saw something like that. You won't believe this.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, Mark, I appreciate you calling in, brother. Yeah. You got any other little stories or tidbits that you can share with us, or have I tapped you out?
I know that's actually other than that, I lead a pretty boring life. I haven't really seen nothing or heard nothing other than that. As far as firsthand goes, I always listen to the channel and things like that. But as far as personally, that's really all I've got to contribute into this big ocean of cryptozoology.
Wow. Well, that was impressive. Thank you, Mark, from Greenville, South Carolina. I appreciate you calling in, brother.